Welcome to Profit Boss Radio, where successful women have paved the road to their own financial freedom. Each week, your host, Hillary Hendershot, financial coach, money mindset expert, and experienced wealth manager, will help you discover the keys to the wealth and peace of mind you want and deserve in her no-nonsense and authentic style. Starting right now.
Well, it's a 200K party today. Yes, I'm throwing this party right here, right now. You are the guest of honor because last month, Profit Boss Radio surpassed 200,000 downloads. I want to thank you so much for contributing to that success. Thank you for sharing the show and for listening loyally. This movement is about the financial empowerment of women, and we cannot do this thing alone. So continue to talk with your wealth mastermind and your girlfriends about how now is the time for women to liberate and empower ourselves financially. We are in the C-suite, we're in the boardroom, and it's time for us to take our place at the table of millionaires and more, and it starts one conversation at a time and one episode of Profit Boss Radio at a time. So thank you so much. So on the surface of things, the Profit Boss movement is about money. Although I think that if you listen to the show consistently, what it's really about is happiness and empowerment and satisfaction and fulfilling your life's goals. Money is just a conduit for all those things, and you really can't have those things if you don't at least have enough money to pay for the life you're living and save for the life you'll have in the future. Money is like water or oxygen or confidence. You just have to have enough or you're going to suffer. And intrinsic to the conversation about money is how we earn money for obvious reasons. I know from the surveys that you've been filling out, thank you, that many of you have a full-time job and about half of you are entrepreneurs or at least part-time entrepreneurs. And some of you who are employed full-time will find that on your journey to happiness, that entrepreneurship offers the freedom and flexibility you want. For me, when I was a salaried employee at a large multinational company, I found that having a capped salary really demotivated me. Some of you are experiencing that same thing, and you might be thinking that you'd like to go out on your own. So my message and this Profit Boss movement would be incomplete if I didn't talk with you about what it's like to transition to owning your own business and give you examples and role models to learn from. And that role model piece is important because online there's a bit of an arms race amongst female entrepreneurs. But it's not a race to be armed. It's a race to be gorgeous and perfect and skinny and have the best looking photos. And that is not what entrepreneurship is. The surface things are an empty goal, and too many women business owners waste time and resources trying to get to that goal. So I'm going to provide you with different role models. So entrepreneurship is what we're talking about today, and we're ditching the female arms race. Today's guest is someone I've wanted to interview for a long time, an incredibly dynamic lady named Krimitsos, who leads a group called Biz Women Rock. It's a podcast and a private Facebook community. As of today, it has 4,561 members, by the way, and she offers mentorship and masterminds. So she leads a group of women business owners as she runs her own business. And she and I are in a super cool virtual moms group for women who have online businesses. So we do know each other and there's some rapport there. You'll hear that. But what's truly amazing about her is that she really does things her own way. And she's real and she's authentic. And she does not publish perfect and gorgeous pictures of herself wearing 4-inch heels. She just completely lacks pretentiousness. And I love that about her. I think we can get caught up in thinking that owning a business is for the sexy and the successful and that it looks like flying around in the G5 and wearing lots of bling. And that ain't it. And thinking that way might keep you intimidated and stop you from trying. So today we're going behind the curtain. Katie is a demand for happiness and a demand for empowerment. If she's not happy or satisfied, she pulls herself up by her bootstraps and she makes changes. And she's scrappy. She makes it happen no matter what. And she's a true profit boss at heart. Listen to her tell the story of how when she had been working in her boyfriend's business for several years, she went to him and negotiated ownership in the company. I love it. And we can all take a cue from a woman who asks for and gets what she wants. Before we move to the interview, I want to let you know that I'm hard at work putting together some amazing content and offers for you. And so rather than publish something on the podcast that isn't great for 1 month, rather than put out an episode a week, I'm going to publish every other week. So between episode 70 and 71, we'll skip a week. And then again, between episode 71 and 72. If you're listening as they publish, that's May 30th and June 13th, 2017. Do not worry, I'm still here and I'll be back to the regular publishing schedule come episode 72. Thanks for being a Profit Boss, and here's Katie. Welcome to the show, Katie. I'm so excited to have you. I know that you're in gorgeous Florida. How close are you to the beach right now?
So I am about 3 blocks away from like the inner harbor, which is really nice, not beach stuff, but I'm about 30 minutes away from the Gulf. So like beautiful, gorgeous white sand beaches. So we are there quite a bit.
Oh my goodness. So the inner harbor is like sailboats and like that?
No, that's not that kind of harbor, I should say. Like it's an inner Tampa Bay. So it's actually like where downtown is and just has this beautiful like long sidewalk called Bay Shore that everyone runs on. And it's just right next to the water. So it's pretty. It's not the water to go into.
I'm jealous. And I saw really a picture. Nice. You actually have team meetings on the beach.
I do. Not so bad, right?
Well, at my new house, maybe I'll have team meetings on the pool deck, but the beach is not in my near-term future. So I'll just live vicariously through you.
Feel free. I just feel like, we pretty much live from our laptops. There are so many of us who either are working from home from our jobs, or we have built a business that we get to kind of work from anywhere. I was like, why don't I actually take advantage of that every once in a while?
Yeah, I tried to talk my husband into that for so long. We actually got a real estate agent and went to look in Miami Beach. As you know, Miami Beach is insane. You'd have to be crazy to buy there. Yeah. It wasn't like that several years ago, but that never happened. And then I ended up needing to buy a house so that we could stop getting kicked out of our rented houses. So now I own in San Jose, but that's neither here nor there. I would love for you to share with us kind of your path to entrepreneurship, because I know it has lots of twists and turns. It's not traditional. And I think that with your current success, you really have an ability to show people what the path to entrepreneurship can and even should look like, because by not being attached to how you thought it would be in the beginning. I'm super impressed with your flexibility and wisdom of looking at the market. So I'll stop talking now, and I would love to hear your story.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah. So that is a really great way of putting it. Like there's no one path along this entrepreneurial journey, I don't think, even though we sort of all think that it should look like something. I actually never thought about being an entrepreneur growing up. I didn't know what that word was. From my young mind, I really didn't understand the concept of somebody owning their own business. I can look back now and realize that there were people I knew who did, but that never really registered for me. I come from a very blue-collared family. Dad worked for the post office. Mom was a nurse. It just never entered my mind. And then fast forward to I was 22 years old. I had moved from Arizona, where I grew up, out to Tampa, Florida for grad school. And I started working for a woman who owned her own business. And that was the very first time I had ever heard the word entrepreneur. And all I knew was that I want that. That sounds awesome. This woman gets to have the freedom of time, which is truly what really attracted me to this entire lifestyle, really, and this entire concept of owning your own company. But it wouldn't be until about 8 years later that I actually did something about it. So in that 8-year span, really what I did is I finished my master's degree, and I kind of jumped into the corporate world, just kind of like a slew of different jobs, which all sort of had the thread of some sort of communication, if you will, outside marketing, sales type of stuff.
Sort of putting your toe in the entrepreneurial waters.
I guess so. I mean, I guess I never, would really have recognized that, but it was very much a lot of autonomous type of work for the most part, but definitely sales related in the sense of just like a community liaison type of a person. So, and it was in healthcare. So I did that for quite some time. And then I must have been 29 years old. And the job that I had at that point for a couple of years was at a senior living facility. And I was in charge of going out to the physicians, the hospital administrators, and telling them to refer to our facility. So it was just a lot of relationship building, truthfully, a lot of communication skills. And so but I hated it. I just hated it. I just remember feeling so trapped. Like I couldn't truly do what I wanted to do, even though I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I guess my expectation was always like, oh, I need to have this dream job. And that dream job was going to be the answer that made me feel free. So at some point, I've always had a passion for writing. And at some point I said, well, I'm going to write a book. And so I wrote a book. Oh my God. It was called like Red Flags and Amber Lights. It was such a horrible title, but it was all about, it was a bad book. I can really admit that now, but it was all about how to find your true love. And it was something that I was going through at the time of like kind of being on sabbatical from all Mr. Wrongs and really wanting to work on attracting Mr. Right. So I finished the book, and right about when I finished the book, I met this amazing man named Chris. I had actually met him about 9 months prior, and we were sort of in each other's space, but never really had hung out. So he had just opened a local entrepreneurs association. It's called the Tampa Bay Business Owners, and sort of like a chamber of commerce, but just for business owners. And so I was sort of in the space of working my corporate job, looking at this guy who was pretty cute and thinking like, well, I need to learn business because I don't need to be around other writers. I need to be around business people who can help me figure out how to sell this thing, because of course I'm easily going to be able to replace my income by selling this $20 book, right? That's of course going to be my lifestyle. So I joined his organization as a member, and we fell in love quite quickly. And then while I was working my job, I was like, well, let me just kind of help you with a few things here or there. So I sort of brought some back office skills to the job or to the business. And then lots of fast forwarding later, just a few months into it, I kind of dropped everything book related because I probably somewhere in my head knew that it was really crappy. And he already had this working business model. Like I saw that, like he had members, people were paying to be part of this organization, and he needed help. And so I was like, well, I can do this. And so we put both of our energies to do it. And so I was doing that. And at some point I was asking myself, I really hate this job thing. Let me try and do this. And so at that point I had saved up probably about $30,000 or $40,000 in my savings account. And it was like, I did the math and I was like, okay, I can really stretch $1. Like I can do this. I've got a year of a runway, right? If not more. So I quit my job without having another job, and then kind of went into working in his business full time. And that was like the jump into my first like digs at entrepreneurialism.
Was that a career move or was that a love move?
The moving into his business was totally a love move. The quitting of the job, I would not call it career. It was like it was a life move for me.
You were done.
I have a really low tolerance for unhappiness. And thankfully, I grew up with parents who always, always, always taught me to follow what makes you happy and everything will always work out. So I didn't really have the fear of I'm going to stay in a miserable life because I'm scared of what else is out there, or I'm scared that something's going to not be what I think it's going to be. Like I've been really lucky, and I guess I've made a lot of decisions at a young age that got me really used to kind of jumping, if you will, even when I didn't know. But I would know when I'm not happy. And I knew that had to mean that I could move on. There never in my life has anything called I'm going to stay in this job that makes me unhappy existed ever. So going into his business back then was definitely a love move, but I found I was really good at it. I found I was really good at systems building, at operations, at team management, at communication. And so it became this massive, like exciting challenge. But it took us a while to make it profitable for us. So really I really cut my teeth on business and running my own company, because I soon really ended up being an owner in the company. I really cut my teeth on business in those first years of like everything. Like,
wait a minute. When you say you became an owner, how did that happen? By marriage, or did you?
Oh no, girl. No. I went to him. I don't even remember how long it was in it. It had to be probably 2 years. And I was like, I want ownership in this company. I'm in it just as much as you are. And I've put tons of sweat equity in it. And I don't want to just be the helpful girlfriend. I want equity. So I got on the paperwork as having part ownership. I was not a 50-50 partner, mind you, but I got a percentage that felt right to me at the time. So, and that gave me even more incentive to go and work. So I'm actually kind of, I guess part of my ego is actually really proud about that people always think like, oh, you got married, that's why you were part owner. I was like, no. We were not married. We were not engaged, but I was an owner.
That's awesome. Good for you. Yeah. I didn't mean to slow your roll there.
Okay.
I don't know where you are. So now you're working full time in the local business.
Yeah.
And then what happens that changes that?
So a couple of things happened. So it wasn't pretty. I'm going to be honest. Like it was a real challenge. It was amazing. Otherwise, there's no way I would have stayed in it. So it was so challenging and giving in how much I grew as a business person. I mean, my God, I look back and I'm like, oh my God, how far I've come as just a savvy business person. There's so many things I just did not know. And thankfully, I mean, my husband has been an entrepreneur ever since he was a kid. So like he brought so much experience and I had so much, respect for how he did things and learned so much about that. So, but those first couple of years, we did not make money. I mean, it was like we were trying everything just to pay the bills every single month, and not the home bills, by the way, like pay the business bills and just keep the business stores open. So, there was a point even a couple of years into it where my savings were gone. I was, maxing out a couple of credit cards in order to pay anything on credit cards that did not need to get paid by cash. That's pretty much how it was working. And I remember it was actually shortly after we got married that I kind of looked at the bank accounts. I was like, oh my God, like the one thing that can't get paid by credit card is my mortgage. And I only have enough in the account for 2 more months. And I know that we're not bringing in that money that I need from the company. So I went back and got a job, which was an incredibly shameful thing for me at the time because I was living and breathing entrepreneurship. We were surrounded by entrepreneurs. That's what you did. And you weren't a real entrepreneur unless you like gave it all up and, went balls to the walls and, went in debt, $100,000. And that just wasn't. So it wasn't the right thing to do, but I was like, I'm sorry, this needs to get done. So I just did it. I didn't tell probably a soul about it. Like it was just me and my husband knew. And I would go work there during the day. And then I would come to our office and I would work most of the night to get whatever done I needed to get done for our company. And I did that for about 5 months before I was again at the threshold of, I hate this. And so I need to, and by that time I had earned a good chunk of cash to start giving me a feeling of like, okay, I can now walk away and the business is at a little bit of a better place. And it wasn't too soon after that the business really started being able to pay for some of the things in our lives, which was really nice.
So what were you doing? What was the job that you got?
It was like I don't even remember. I try to block that out of my head, Hillary. Thank you. Just kidding. No, it was a startup actually. And it was what did they call them? Like an add-on benefit. So it wasn't like healthcare coverage, but it was like add-on coverage that you could get. So it was like if you wanted pet insurance, if you wanted dental care, if you wanted eye insurance.
So you were selling to business owners?
No, it was like this company would contract with big companies who had a ton of employees and they would build a customized portal for their employees to basically like upgrade into all of these different add-on benefits.
Got it.
So it was a good company, but because it was a startup, I really shot myself in the foot because it's not like it was a 9-to-5 job either. Like it was like, they were going through the same things we were going through.
Right.
They just had a lot more capital. Like they were like funded and they were kind of at that level. We were definitely not that.
So where are you in the timeline? This was a couple years after you had left the corporate gig and joined your then boyfriend in business?
Yeah. And so that, I don't even remember. That had to be 2012. So he started the company in 2008. I joined on in early 2009. And so this was 2012. This is 3 years into it. And then I feel like that's the year that I had a major transition. Major moment of like financial stuff, because all of this was kind of my financial path. Like it was hard. It was really hard. And my attitude towards it was we only have X amount of dollars left until we go broke or until I can't pay the mortgage anymore. That's always how I looked at it.
Right.
And I remember my husband constantly saying, you just got to trust that. Like you got to stop looking at that. Quit looking at the runway. Like go look for sales, like go look for abundance. Like he had learned that early on as an entrepreneur. And so I just hadn't learned that. And so I was constantly stressed out. I'm the one who really managed and still do manage our household finances, the business finances. Like I'm that person. And so I just was seeing the numbers in front of me all the time and just really full of anxiety all the time. And then a friend of mine gifted me with a ticket to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. The entire weekend was transformative for many, many reasons, but probably the most impactful immediately was my money mindset, because all of a sudden I really saw like, oh my God, like in my worst case scenario of not being able to pay mortgage, I think I'd actually be okay. Like I started being able to see things as like, it's actually not that bad. And so it's actually never going to happen that bad. So why don't I just put all my attention on believing in abundance and believing that everything is possible. And the more people we help, the more money we make. And I don't know why, but it was just a really tremendous experience where my mindset walking into that weekend was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I got to make money. We got to make money. We got to make money. And then walking out, I was like, just peaceful. Like we're going to be fine.
Wow.
We just focus on value. That's it.
And did Tony address that specifically, or did you just get it from other people at the event?
No, he definitely had a specific segment of money, like of money and financial mindset. I guess that was the one that really hit really deeply for me. And so, I mean, there's so many different facets and angles of that. I mean, as far as like my money story, like what I grew up with, we were very proud. We were very blue collar folks. I would not call us poor by any means, but I remember moments of being on food stamps. But money was never, not having money was absolutely not shameful. It was actually the opposite. We were really proud about not having money and really proud about the sale that we got, almost to the point of people who made too much money were obviously working too much and obviously not family people. I mean, that was never directly said to me at all. So I don't want to put that on my parents, but like, that was just sort of like a lot of money is bad. So all of a sudden, it was sort of, I had to deal with that and really finally really see that impact, but then also kind of shift into the space of like, money is not a bad thing. Financial freedom is a great thing. But if I truly want financial freedom, I can't do that looking at when is the next shoe going to drop? I can't do that. Like that just doesn't
so
work.
Powerful. Yeah. And that moment of sort of divorcing yourself from the ideals of the past, whether they were directly instilled by your family or indirectly, is like such an emancipation.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Really huge. And I have to tell you that, I mean, it happened in pieces and phases and moments so many times in those first years of business, but definitely that weekend was massively transformative. And I can honestly tell you, I have not ever dipped back down into that space of anxiety and, oh my gosh, I'm freaking outness. And truthfully, like my husband will even say that, like, that's kind of the moment that the business turned around, because all of a sudden the co-owner of it finally got the abundance mentality.
Finally picked her nose up off the runway. Where's the sky? Where's the sky? I can't see the sky.
Because you can't invite in great things when all you're thinking about is what could go wrong. You can't do that. Like, it just, those two things can't coexist together. So if you want great things in your life, focus on great things, so it was just that same concept, just done in the space of money that was so foundational for where I was then. So that was a moment where everything turned around.
Very great. Okay. So at that point, the business has a pivot point. And when do you decide that you're going to even expand beyond that or even go independent? From this local business and from your husband? Yeah. In a business sense.
So a couple of things were happening. We were discovering that we were not so amazing business partners.
Really?
The funny thing is I think we both wanted it to be, and from the outside, it looks like we complement each other very well in business, which we do. However, the more confident I got as a business person and the more savvy I got as a business person, we're both very kind of alpha leaders, but we lead very differently. And so, in the beginning, it worked really, really well, but as both of us evolved, really, it just wasn't really jiving. So that was sort of happening in the background. And then it's always been really important to me to have some sort of an impact on women. I've always known that. I just didn't know how. I thought it would be through my writing. I just didn't know what that would look like. And so I sort of just played around with like other things that I could do. And it was really important for me to do my own thing in some way. So I played around with a couple of things. Like at some point I'm going to start a copywriting business because I'm really good at writing. I could write sales copy. I can write website copy. I can write all this sort of stuff for emails. And so I started a copywriting business. It did pretty well. And like kind of at that moment where it could have really, if I would have like put on the gas, it would have done really well. I was like, meh, I'm kind of done. Nah, this wasn't really it. And so I had like a couple of things like that. And then in 2014 or 2013, at the end of 2013, we heard about podcasting. And however many months, 2 months later, so in early 2014, I started a podcast called Biz Women Rock. And it was like the perfect marriage of my love of business, because I was super passionate about entrepreneurship by that time, really just super identified with it, and my passion for women. And that's all I knew starting it. I was like, I just want to be that space for women in business. I don't know what that really is, but I don't know what that is as a business, but I just know that that's what this podcast could be. So that was the moment that the podcast started. And that was the moment that I started going off in that direction. But it wasn't for another 2.5 years, 2+ years that I was really full on in that company. Really for 2.5 years, in those first 2.5 years of Biz Women Rock, I was still 80% in our local company, and about 20% of my time was with the podcast and with whatever the heck that was becoming.
So were you podcasting for free? Were you making any money off of it?
The first year, I made some money from affiliates. I made some money from a couple sponsors. I made money as a coach for the very first time, and then nothing, but I was practicing, and like nothing was really sticking. So I tried a couple of like products, because by that point I had launched my Facebook group. And so the podcast and the Facebook group were like these great pools of people where like I had an audience basically. And so I could say, hey guys, who wants to do a 30-day biz challenge? And I could put it out there. So any idea that I would have, I would give it a try. So basically I spent 2 years experimenting, and I would try things. Let me try this little product over here. Let me try this over here. Let me try sponsorship. And nothing, I did make money, but it pretty much paid its own bills, and its bills were like $1,500 a month. So, like if that. So it pretty much paid its own bills, and that really was that. I would not call it like a profitable business.
So you were sort of cutting your teeth and figuring out what your voice was and figuring out who your audience was.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. And so just to really give people a sense, because I think really for me, the lesson of your story is perseverance and listening to your audience and patience and making it happen no matter what. And, I said this to you in the pre-chat, but it is said that so many business owners give up right before they would have hit their inflection point. And, I think really for you, it happened many years in, and you're at a great vantage point right now to demonstrate that to people, because you have had so much success. And, the business, the Facebook group is somewhat viral. I mean, there's just a ton of people in there and a ton of engagement and a ton of activity. So you're kind of, how do I say, you're at a peak in your career. Yeah. So how are you listening to people? Are you asking them what they want? Are you testing it and seeing how they respond? How do you do it?
I do any way I can possibly think of. So if it's on the podcast, I'm asking them, hey, tell me what you thought of this. If I'm in the Facebook group is probably where I get the most immediate feedback, because it's there and it's dynamic, and, somebody listening to a podcast can immediately comment back to me. But within the Facebook group, they can, and on email, they can. So on the Facebook group, I do a ton of experimenting with asking questions. So I'm constantly asking about, hey, what is the biggest challenge you're having lately? What tech tools are you loving and why? I get really creative with asking all sorts of questions that can give me a well-rounded view as to who my ladies actually really are. Mm-hmm. How long have you been in business? I mean, I know I don't have every single person comment in there, but it made me feel really good that I was hit home that I actually do have women who are pretty darn savvy. This isn't their first rodeo in business. I don't tend to attract beginners. And so, I make sure that my education and everything that I'm doing is for that level of person. I have sent out some surveys before. I always can do a little bit more of that. But, for the most part, it's just a hell of a lot of question asking and getting to know them. So as I work with them one-on-one too, I understand that is such a great way to keep a pulse on what the larger community is actually experiencing. So I can't say that I can, assume that those things are the same for everyone. But when I have 6 clients who are all talking about the same issue, that's a really nice trigger for me to say, this tends to be an issue right now for my community. So let me talk a little bit more about that. And then sometimes, I'll experiment with types of, like, I would call them like little mini products or like testing products. So like little things that people might pay a small amount for to see if there's something there. I'm having this mompreneur series on my podcast right now, and I'm getting tons of response from it. It's awesome. And so I was thinking of putting together this cool like 6-week coaching program. And so I had like this free download and all sorts of stuff. And then I don't know what it was. It was just like this gut. And I just realized like mompreneurs are not, I couldn't think of one person. That was like the thing. I was like, I can't think of one person who would actually invest in this, even though I loved it and it was amazing. But I was like, I can't, because the mompreneur who would need it is a mompreneur who's in the throes of probably they're either have been in business and they're a new mom and they're trying to figure it out, or they're a mom for a while, but new in business. And, they're trying to figure it out too. So they're too busy and that's not where they're investing their money. So I was like, I'm going to pull the plug on that one. So you'll hear the word experimenting come out a lot of me. It really is. I'm constantly just listening, asking questions. It's intimate talking, intimate conversations. I message a lot of my members one-on-one randomly. Hey, I've been thinking about you, which is totally true. Like I am a big believer that no matter how big my community gets, no matter how many people are listening to my podcast, no matter how many people are on my email list, no matter how many people are in my Facebook group, it is the one person that I get to talk to, that one conversation. And I just try to do that as many times as possible. So I'm very cognizant of that, because it's that one individual person who is having an issue or a challenge or needs a solution that I can offer.
So to try to make the lessons universal, because of the folks listening, if some of them do feel they want to dip their toes in the entrepreneurship waters, everyone's not going to have a business that looks just like yours. But I think that the idea is really you've really integrated yourself into the community. Like they're your people.
Yeah.
And you're there to serve them. You're not coming with a preconceived notion of what they want and need.
No. And it's so funny because I look back and in our pre-chat, Hillary, we were talking about sort of like that my life has sort of been this patchwork of things. And now looking back, and I'm sure you listening can absolutely say this about something in your life. Looking back on my life right now, I can see how all of those years managing and organizing and leading and interacting with members of an offline community, of an in-person live community, has lent itself so beautifully to how I lead and connect and bring together a community online. And I think that that's what makes my community actually really unique, is because I'm able to understand the power of intimacy that happens offline, and I can translate that into an online space. And so the point is that, but it happened very gradually. It happened sometimes with me not knowing what in the world I was doing. Seriously, I can only say now that my business is very profitable and it's kicking butt and I am in the groove. It's only been in the past 8-9 months that I feel like I've been in the secret sauce of where my business is. And this is such a happy place for me. But it took me 2.5 years of this one business, Biz Women Rock, and then another however many 6, 7, 8 years before that in an offline community to get to this point. So yes, it has been a lot of iterations. So if you are thinking about how do I dip my toes into entrepreneurship, the best advice that I could give is just take the next best step, because you don't need to have it all figured out. My particular business model is one that I'm very passionate about, and especially in this day of the influencer, where, so many people try to say, well, I have a product and I'm just going to go sell it now. I need to figure out how to sell it. And while that does work and you can do a lot of cool things marketing wise to get in front of the right people, I love the business model that's absolutely kind of upside down from that, which is build a community first, be someone who adds value to somebody's lives, a specific niche of people in a way that is meaningful to you and you really love, and then just listen and talk to them and get to know them and start offering them things that make their lives better, that they want, and that because you've spent the time creating great relationships, that they are now loyalists to you, they love you, then of course they're going to raise your hand and say, me, 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 you know? So
I'll do whatever you're doing, Katie.
Yeah, I can't. Seriously, I just launched my Biz Women Rock Elite membership, and it's my first paid community of like the best of the best. Like if you think about elite athletes, like these are the Olympian freaking business women, right? They're in it for big things. So just launched it. No joke. There are 39 women who came in it as founding members, and just about every single one of them was like, whatever you're doing, I'll do it. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'll do it. I was like, well, got to work on my marketing a little, on my sales page a little bit, but I'm glad that you're saying that, you know, so that is really comforting and really humbling that I have been able to build that type of a community, that quality of a community, that what I do, no matter what it is, automatically comes with the sense of value and trustworthiness and integrity. And that's the kind of brand that I've built.
And I feel like you really are truly embodying the principles of a few works of writing, the essay, 1,000 Raving Fans, and Seth Godin's Tribes, and the book Lean Startup. And I don't even know if you know those books. You probably do know at least one or two of them.
I know all of them. I don't think I've ever read fully any of them, but I know the concepts of all of them.
But I feel like you know, Lean Startup is, you don't really have to read it. I hope the author doesn't listen to this because I'm sure that will make him very angry. But it essentially is this principle that you build a minimum viable product, launch it, get some people to buy it, get feedback, make it better, and launch it again. And there's this saying, if you're not embarrassed when you launch your first product, you worked on it too hard.
It's so true. It is so true. I know people who have been building an online product for a year, and I'm like, who are you going to launch it to? Who needs it? Like, who can you tap on the shoulder? And it's not even like, oh, I have a list. It's not, name me 10 people who you know that they will be like, yes, that's what I need. Like, I don't care if your community is 10 people. If you've got 10 people who are like raving fans of yours, then put something out there. Minimum viable product does not mean crap. It means the best that you've got with the minimum amount of
that meets their needs.
Yes, exactly.
Forget the bells and whistles in the beginning.
Right. Exactly. Just launch something and do it. And because you have to experiment, you know, and then you have to learn. You have to. It's the same thing with a podcast. And Hillary, I'm sure that you could identify with this. Geez, my first 50 shows sucked. I mean, I was a horrible interview. I did not have my voice. You know, I was super like uber, like hyper professional, which is not my scene. And it took me a long time. And there's no other way. This is business. This is life. This is everything. There is no other way for you to become great at something unless you suck at something. Like, you've got to walk that gauntlet. You cannot be great the moment that you start. You just cannot. So you've got to walk through that gauntlet and take those first couple of steps and just figure it out. And I think if there's any sort of theme to my life, I feel like that's probably it, is I have not been afraid to try something and figure it out and look like a complete dork doing it, because let me just see how it goes, because why not? And what happens if I don't? That's kind of what I'm more scared of. I don't want to not try.
And we sort of hand waved the part in your business where you transitioned from podcasting for maybe advertiser money to business coaching. And, but just real quickly, I think you first did group coaching and then one-on-one, or how did that evolution go?
So it went like, I guess it was like probably early 2016, where I finally realized like, oh, I actually would be a really good coach. And because people for 3 years had been asking me, hey, can you help me with this? I don't coach. Everyone else is a coach. I'm not going to coach. So, you know, just because I'm just wanting to be a rebel and not wanting to be like everyone else, I really shunned it for quite some time. And then in the summer, I finally realized like, actually, I would be a really great coach and I have a lot of great stuff to bring to the table. So I launched a contest, basically giving people an opportunity to win a 90-minute strategy session with me, totally free. And I got 37 people to apply. And that was my official start to, okay, now I've got people who are interested in me as a coach. So that launched a coaching business for me. My business since has evolved to coaching and strategy to also online products and programs. Some of those are group coaching looking, but they're more like a 6-week jumpstart type of a program for goal setting and, kicking butt, or if it's a Facebook groups course, or just all sorts of like things that I'm trialing to get people involved in some way. So it's really a combination of programs that people can take on in the live version to get whatever results that they need, one-on-one coaching, as well as this elite membership group, just kind of the larger elite community.
Great. And can you tell us a couple win stories from your clients?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is really cool. This is kind of fresh. I just had a client that I've been working with for about, 7 months now. And she just showed up and so just, kind of off the cuff was like, oh, yeah, I kind of had a cool win. Like I finally looked at my finances this week and I actually realized that I have enough recurring revenue to pay my bills every month. And I was like, what? And that was not where she was 7 months ago. And she just said it so like, okay, moving on, check mark, let's move on to the next thing. And I was like, wait a minute. So that was pretty dang awesome. And that was a major thing for her because she did not come to the table that way. She came to the table very confused, kind of like chasing down the next big project that she needed. And we really did a lot of mindset shifts in there about how things could be done, what was possible for her, getting clear on who her client actually was versus who they weren't.
What kind of business does she run?
She has a website design company. And so, yeah,
did you help her niche, or what do you think was the thing that transformed it for her?
Well, it was funny. There were a couple of things, but the bottom line that was the big transition for her was that she had been known for her main business staple of income was really coming from new projects, like new big, like somebody needs to build a website from scratch. And those are all great because those are higher ticket dollar. So she was turning away smaller dollar, like, hey, can you just add this on, like add-on things? She was kind of turning that stuff away. And then she also does like website maintenance. So she does a lot of like, monthly, like your back office, like clearing of any viruses and stuff like that. And she wasn't really doing that much with it. So she just put she started seeing what the profitability could actually be on these like one-off projects from clients that she already had, or people who just would come to her, not for an entire build out, but for just like small projects here and there. And that were, for her time money ratio, were pretty dang good. And so she started taking on more of those, and with less and less big clients, that started increasing tremendously. And then her monthly maintenance programs, like people were just like coming into those like left and right. So, and kind of once you have somebody into a monthly maintenance program for your website, just to take care of all that dirty stuff that you don't want to touch, kind of got them for life when you do a great job. So
no kidding. I would never shut that off and be like, yeah, do that forever.
Yeah, seriously. So that was a big thing for her. And all of a sudden it became not as detrimental to like, it didn't become as like, oh my God, I have to go out and find the next big get kind of a thing, Well,
that's epic. I mean, a lot of people would consider to have a recurring revenue that covers your expenses. That's pretty much financial freedom.
Pretty much. I told her I have a friend of mine who considers that equilibrium in his company. They're an open book company. So he shares with his employees about the numbers. But the way that they share it is that they call it at equilibrium. Basically, when our recurring revenue, it covers our bills, that's equilibrium. So this month we were at 70% E. Next month we were at 90% E. And so their goal is to get positive E, basically, because that's when they can start getting really creative and not have that stress of needing to cover that deficit. So I think any company, I don't care what you're in, and I think any individual, whether you're a company or not, if you're working a job, getting your money to work for you in the way that that recurring revenue can start easing and cushioning so that you have, X amount of dollars, 20% of E coming in every single month, 40% of E, like that starts feeling really good, really fast.
I love that because 70% of E sounds great and 90% sounds even better. But for those just starting out, if you're a salaried person, I've been using this metaphor of dipping your toes in, you start at 2% E.
Yep. Yeah.
Start somewhere, take some money from someone for something valuable, and you've started. And, you'd be surprised how fast things can get rolling.
Yeah. It's amazing. But you got to do it. You got to take action before you learn, and then you know what to do next,
Well, Katie, I've been watching you on social media and, we know each other from a cool private Facebook group. And I just have been completely inspired by your authenticity and the way you are shoulder to shoulder with everyone. I think that a lot of business owners are out there presenting themselves as perfect, Hollywood style with the absolute perfect photos and the all makeup videos. And you are just not that way.
That's Hillary's way of saying that I show up to my Facebook Lives in my workout gear and sweaty and last night's makeup on. That's pretty much what she said.
She literally does.
I do. No, I appreciate that. That's really kind. And I do consider that a compliment because I don't know how not to be myself. And in my opinion, I feel like the more what I'm here to do, one of my bigger purposes within this business is making everyone feel like we're all here together. We're all in this game together. And the more that I can make people feel and remind them that we all go through this, that it gives them a space to feel empowered to get up again and go do it again and not feel so bad about themselves because they fell down. And that's what this game's all about for me.
Yeah. And I think that's really what you do with a lot of inspiration, a little kick in the pants. So where can people find you?
You can find me at bizwomenrock.com. If you go opt in there, you'll get a personal invitation to my private Facebook group for entrepreneurial women. Or you can find me on Facebook. That is where I'm probably most active, although I am on some of the other social media platforms as well. But I would love to connect with you.
Awesome, Katie. Thanks so much for being on Profit Boss Radio.
Thank you so much, Hillary.
Hey, Profit Boss, sometimes it really does take a village. I don't know if you know what it's like to be a podcaster, but it can be pretty lonely. I sit in my office day in and day out. I put out content that I think is going to help you move closer to your goals. And I need your help. I need your input and I need your opinion. For just 6 weeks, I have my listener survey link live at hillaryhendershot.com/podcast survey. And I need to hear from you. I think really warm thoughts of all the people who have filled out that survey so far. And I need to hear from you. I know it's not convenient. I know you're not sitting by your laptop right now, but you'll be there later today. And if you think about it, just go. The link will definitely be in the episode notes for today's episode, but just go to hillaryhendershot.com/podcast survey. It'll take 20 seconds. Fill out my survey. Let me know if there's anything I can do on the show that would make it better. Are the episodes too short? Are the episodes too long? Do I talk too much? Do you want more guests? Do you want more solo episodes? Let me hear from you the questions you want answered. Most importantly, I want to know what it's going to take to move you closer to your financial goals this year. That's what I want to provide for you. And that's what you can tell me how to do at hillaryhendershot.com/podcast survey. Thanks, Profit Boss.
Profit Boss, thanks for making it to the end of another episode of PBR. I have been doing a lot of thinking about you. I'm thinking about how hard it can be to change old habits. I mean, sometimes I think how nice it would be if things worked like they did for Keanu Reeves in those Matrix movies. If we could just lie back in an industrial punk rock barber chair and have a little cable plugged into the backs of our necks and just instantly become the masters of our financial domains. That would be kind of perfect, right? Except for the part about having the cable plugged into the back of your neck and the whole industrial punk thing. And Keanu Reeves is so annoying when you get right down to it. But I think it's important to form new habits, especially ones as fun as being alerted when new episodes of Profit Boss Radio go live. You want to know a secret? This is one habit that's almost no work at all. All you have to do is head over to iTunes, find the Profit Boss Radio channel, and hit subscribe. That's it. Then each week, you'll automatically find the latest episode ready and waiting on your favorite device. And the best part is that subscribing to Profit Boss Radio is just the beginning of other wonderful habits, like taking control of your money and learning how to build wealth or starring in your own reality show. Well, maybe not that one, unless it's on YouTube and self-produced. But plenty of great stuff is sure to happen when you subscribe. So what are you waiting for?
Thank you for listening to Profit Boss Radio, where creating success on our own terms happens every day. You're not alone in your journey to a rich life, and that's why Hillary is here to add value in each and every episode. See you next time on the podcast for women and money.